welcome everybody to another edition of Truth Seekers. And Coach Nick is on baby watch. So very excited to have Coach Matt join us today. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Pleasure to be here with you today, guys, and seeking the truth. So thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. We have a great guest on. I'm very excited about to introduce Sean here. Now, Sean and I connected over the past few days over some common threads here, Sean. I figured that'd be a good place to start. Talk to me about the strangest secret.
Man, I'll tell you, Josh, I worked for a company for 26 years and loved everything about it, valued everything about it, and it was vice versa. Really felt home, but at some point you kind of need to go spread your own wings. So I start working for another company for a couple of years, and I'm on the road a lot. And so I was constantly listening to podcasts, just anything I could do. When I worked in the industry, I had all this knowledge that was just presented to me, all this mentorship that was always around me. You know, I worked for a retailer named Harris Teeter for 26 years. And the amount of knowledge around there was intense. Then you're on your own a little bit and you're looking for knowledge in different places. Podcasts are where I found it. And you're picking up little tidbits and stuff. And then at this one point, I came across this podcast called The Strangest Secret. It was written in 1953 by a guy named Earl Nightingale. And it was kind of entertaining to go through it. And basically what happened at that point, and it was in 2017 that I heard this podcast, or early 18, is I always kind of struggled to realize or to know where I wanted to go. I was always a great champion when somebody would come up and say, "Hey, Sean, I need you to do this. Sean, I need you to do that." And what the podcast really goes through and teaches you is that you have all the will within yourself. It's just really figuring out where it is that you want to go. One of the greatest analogies that this podcast talks about is really if you want to be successful, you will be successful. You know, and if you have a plan, you almost certainly get there. I got to tell you, for anybody that's looking for any kind of answers within life, business, goals, this is the perfect podcast. It's 31 minutes long. And I'll tell you, I listen to it about monthly still. But it pretty much it'll teach you how to find what it is that makes you happy. See, most people think money makes them happy. Money is just a tool. Money is literally a tool. And he teaches you that really the only people that make money are printers. You earn money. You don't make money, right? So that's the thing. And the big thing for me was where it changed my life is I realized that, you know what, I'm in a bad relationship. You know, I'm not seeing kind of, we're going different ways in my job. And I wanted to affect people. And really that's what makes me happy. That's what drives me, is to have a group of people and to kind of accomplish something together. And things fell into place late in 2018, and we parted ways at my old company, and I had a decision to make. And seems like a lifetime ago, but I feel like I made the right decision. So I decided to fill this need. There's a need in the marketplace first and foremost. I mean, that's the most important thing, is I had a product. I understood the space very well. So I just needed to invent the perfect product. But my drive and what really drove me to do it was my ability to be able to affect people in a positive way in the future. You get tired of hearing the politics and the left and the right and this and that. And what really happens is the people get lost in the mix of all of it. And so my happiness, what truly fills me up, isn't money at all. In fact, if you were around me at all in the last 2 years, you would know that doesn't affect my happiness. What makes me really happy is that we're taking a group of people. We're going to affect positive change for people that need it. And we've already started, and we've got a lot more to go.
I got so many questions about that, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, because there's some great stuff around that. I'm excited to hear about that. What I would like to unpack is your notion about creating the future, because it's so true, right? And Coach, I'd like to get your thoughts on this too, but we talk at Pro Advisor Coach about the tyranny of the urgent. Have you ever heard of that, Sean?
I've not, but I can feel how it's going. Cool.
Texts, emails, phone calls, all these demands on us, and we can get lost in that. We get lost in the shuffle. And to your point, we can be so intentional about what we're building in the future. We're all creators. We're all creators. And it sounds like you're listening to a higher calling or a higher power to serve people. And that's what really resonates with me, because a lot of people feel that, but don't take the action to take those next steps in order to do that. And Coach, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, because that's a lot of our clientele is like, people who have that drive, and we can assist them and lift them up even more, because we're already dealing with great people who are highly successful and have the vision. But I feel like it's such a breed of people that answer that calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. And I first want to pause and just show appreciation to Sean and respect that it really, what I took away from what you shared is that you are just curious and thirsty for knowledge and learning, and through all the podcasts and the self-study and reflection, you came to a conclusion that I was not in this place where I was living my purpose. And you made that decision in 2018 to go more congruent towards you and live that purpose. And I would love to ask you a pointed question around, was there an exact moment where you either you had enough of where you were, or where you figured out that I want to go there, and to get there, I've got to change things? Was there an exact moment when you realized that in 2018? And what did that feel like when you had that cathartic moment of the realization? And any thoughts around the way of that moment moving forward? Love to hear that, Sean.
Yeah, so great point. Actually, I do have that moment. Ironically, so I was in Arkansas on a lake, and one of my best friends, still is at the time, but we were thinking about doing a business at the time that didn't really pan out. And we went down to Arkansas to meet with this guy about something, and he had this houseboat that was parked on a lake. And I thought to myself, what an unbelievably great way to live. I mean, we go on the boat. What a great meeting. It was an unbelievable meeting. And at the end, I talked to this guy who, at the end, ends up owning a huge business. He pulls me to the side and he says, listen, I know you guys are thinking about starting a business, but you've got something, man. You've got a spark. And he said, I don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, but you'll do it. And he said, just remember, the one thing is once you say I'm gonna, don't look back. And I haven't. And so that's the thing, is you can't look backwards. You have to continue to look forward. And great point about the goals and the next steps, because if you're planning for today already, you're in trouble. And if you lose focus of what your goal actually is, you get caught up in the weeds of a phone call or this or that misleads you. So, I'm ADD anyway. It's kind of tough to pay attention to some of the things when my life moves pretty fast. But the one thing that my goal is not to be rich. My goal is not to sell this company for billions of dollars. My goal is to affect as many human beings as we can. It is what we do, right? I don't need to make, if we put another $100,000 on the bottom line, then shame on me, because so if we build that in our culture from day one, I may not be the best choice to run this company forever, but you can't walk away from it now. And so now when a decision is made in our company, it's going to affect humans. It's damn sure we realize that effect, and we honor and respect it. We are only as good as everybody involved.
Love that, Sean. And I'm curious if you don't mind sharing maybe what some of those goals are moving forward, and what the company is. I want to hear more about that, if you could.
Yeah, of course. So, I just a quick background of me. I worked at Harris Teeter based in Charlotte for 26 years. So again, not really knowing a direction, but I was in high school. I just moved from Pittsburgh and I needed a job. And I did a good job, and I kind of just worked my way up through the company, because that's what happens when you do a good job. But I never really asked for many promotions. They were always kind of presented to me. And again, I didn't really have direction. I just knew I needed to feed my family. So everything is really based on the way you kind of, approach it. the thing with the direction, and when you know where you're going, and you make sure that every day that's what you're doing, and you don't let anything get in the way of it. That's, I've had so many people tell me you can't do this and you can't do that. And I understand where people come from. I do, but I can do this and I can do that, and it's, so what we did is, as a buyer working for Harris Teeter, I got to learn a lot of categories throughout the space. I started out on the meat side of the world. I started out, just in the stores, and then that went into the progression of buying. And then that progressed into buying multiple categories all around the store. And what that did is it gave me an ability to kind of see holes in categories just through numbers. And I don't mean like Rain Man numbers, but more through national syndicated data, Nielsen, things like that. I was able to kind of see what we were missing based on, just a little bit of things. So I was approached as a detergent buyer by this company called Hex Performance. And, the founder was a professional lacrosse player. And at this point in Hex's life, they wanted to be a sports detergent. And I just believed in the whole thing, because there is a growing problem within our athletic wear, or all of our wear, that is synthetic. And there's a huge problem in the industry with synthetic clothing. It does not wash the same as traditional clothing does. So understand that is really the big need built around my business, is that there is a problem out there. And so when Hex and I decided to go our own ways, I decided that this need was too big and it needed to be filled. And I didn't feel like they were necessarily doing it the right way. So Hex is a sports detergent, and they did a good job of being a sports detergent. So the main problem in synthetic wear is that it's not porous. If you put it underneath water will just drip from it. It won't pour straight through. Now I want you to think about the women in your lives and just what you've got on today. And about 70% of everything we own is synthetic. So if you think about in your wash cycle, when you're washing clothes, the water's meant to kind of slosh through it with the detergent you're using, whether it's premium or non-premium. It'll get it mostly clean. And that can't happen with synthetic clothes. So the water actually pulls up and it doesn't go through. And a lot of times you'll pull stuff out and look like it'll never gotten wet. So that's the overlying problem out there. And then we continue to see more and more athleisure pop up everywhere that you go. And so based on that need, so Hex wanted to be a sports detergent and only really attacked the sports detergent market, where I knew too much about the laundry detergent category. So I knew that we needed to add an eco aspect to what we were doing. So we do what they did, but we added the eco aspect to it. And then we also added the effective aspect to it. So again, it's not about cutting nickels and dimes. I mean, it's really about, making a product that is needed out there. It's both eco and effective, and removes bacteria from, or I should say it removes odor caused from bacteria on synthetic wear. And that's where we're at today. Where I see us going is really being a part of a bigger platform of, how can we be in the community? How can we be in the sports leagues? How can we be in the schools? How can we be an effective part of, positive change? And then at the same time, have a business that grows from that's able to employ people and, kind of do our part back into the economy. But I plan on growing pretty big, Josh. I mean, I don't have modest expectations, but I do have realistic expectations and very patient. And I just know that if it's built around the right foundation, and I know that we are, and we may stumble here and there, but it's early for us, that it's going to work out.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a testament to how strongly attached you are to that future vision, right? And that's what that Strangest Secret's all about. Having that vision, and then, like you said, being interdirected to where other people, hey, Sean, you can't do that. Yes, I can, and I'm going to.
Yeah, if you've heard it before, right? It is life changing. And when I don't just send that podcast. If I meet people wherever it could be having a beer, airport, doesn't matter. If something they say inspires me to lead me to believe that they'll take the time to listen, then I send it. And I actually follow up with them too, because I don't know that, what, growing up as a kid we didn't have any resources. We grew up in a very poor community, and it's fine. A lot of people did. But what you learn from that is that there's no planning for the future. There's no, in a lot of cases, college. there's really no opportunity. And by the time you get old enough, you're really just kind of scrapping to, I don't know, not get beat up or survive, or, school's kind of the last thing you're thinking about. And then you have a family and you have all that stuff. And you kind of have a reason to get up and go every day. You just don't really know why you're doing it. And, the podcast is way more about a job. It's more about your inner directive and how you can do whatever it is that you plan on. And if you continually say it, and if you feel it in your heart and you say it to yourself and you act as though it's happened, it will happen. And even that quote, I might have misrepresented the quote somewhat, but I talk in a sense that it's done. And I got to tell you, Josh, it really at some point gets done. And I found myself losing a little bit of excitement on a weird side note, because when things do get done, I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, it's not as, oh yeah, man, oh, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, all right, we can check that off the list now, kind of thing. So I think for us, it's just keeping our goals in perspective and growing the right way, and not just grow to grow. There's a lot of businesses that are out there that are focused towards us. And I feel like not every business is hardcore cold. And if we can find a way to establish products that their customers will feel good about using, and they'll be effective, and they'll do something positive, and then we're going to come out. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the term 1% for the planet. So, I don't know if this is trademarked or not, but internally we call it 1% for the humans. So when we pick up an account, 1% of our net sales will go towards somebody or some cause. And so, and that's right off the top. So, I mean, there's some people, oh, we'll do a nickel per 100,000 units or this or that, or we don't want to do that. We really want to make, otherwise it's just, I'll go find a job because I can make a lot more money, honestly.
So Sean, another question for you. I feel this congruency with what you're saying, that you are passionate, you have a lot of conviction in what you're doing and your mission, your purpose. I love it. I'd love to go back to 26 years of being an employee, and you make the jump to running your own organization. And I wonder if you can share any truths you've learned in that time period when you actually made that commitment to jump to run your own company until now. Any truths or anything you can share with the audience today that you've come to learn from that?
I think that's a good point too. So I worked for 26 years I actually worked for about 29 years in total as an employee. And I joke that I haven't had a job since 2018 when I split ways. So I don't feel like I do now. Yeah, I got to tell you, when I think one of you said it, when you're kind of a go-getter or a startup, you're already successful anyway. You were trying to do the best job you could for your employer, no matter what. But at the end of the day, you've got a team around you that's got a vision shared with you, and you can bounce things off of people and other things like that. And it's a shared kind of decision. When you're sitting in this seat, it's hard because every little detail of the company goes through you, and not just goes through you, but a lot of times you're the one that does it. I get tired of kind of, I guess the thing that keeps me up at night are just different things throughout the day. But it's just that I am the only driving force in reality, where when I worked at Harris Teeter, you knew it was an unbelievably successful company and you had all these people that you worked with. But the success and the failure of the company, either one of them will come down to the decisions that I make. And I'm okay with that. That's a burden that I'll carry, because, I feel pretty good with making sure that we've got some really smart people around us. I think Steve Jobs said it best, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. I'm so in tune with that. There's only so much I can do. So the other thing is to understand your strengths and weaknesses as a leader. And I do have some great strengths, and I have some really bad weaknesses. So I'm responsible to coach myself as well. So I think the weirdest thing I've kind of figured out is that I find myself talking to myself all day long in a directive of president versus employee. That's probably the weirdest thing that I experienced, but it's really just rationalizing in my brain, hey, what's best for the company versus what's best for me personally. So I tend to not think about I have to think through what's best for the company every day. Rather when I'm an employee, there were some things that, I wouldn't do anything you asked me to do, but you get it. So that's everything kind of starts and ends with me. And, unfortunately I'll get too much credit either way because, a lot of other good people are going to be a part of the success. I know my
Thank
own.
you.
Yeah.
I wonder, you mentioned strengths and weaknesses, and not, I'd say majority of people that I speak with, owners I speak with, they have not done all of the work and the reflection to really truly figure out strengths and weaknesses. So if you could hit on for a second your strengths and weaknesses and how you play to those strengths and minimize those weaknesses in your business, I'd love to hear you talk about that as a leader.
Yeah, so I think another thing the podcast does is it does have you kind of look at yourself, and I've always been kind of a self-reflective learning person. I don't always learn quick, but I do try to make the changes from that. So, my strengths are my vision, strategy, vision, all those things. My weaknesses are time management. They are task-based things. If I've got to do any writing, one of the first investments that I made was to find a copywriter, somebody that I could blurt things out to, and then she could put them and make them make sense. And, so from that standpoint, at some point, the day-to-day operations of this would need to be, handed off to somebody that I would trust better than myself with it. But at this point, I would say that strength is not strength for me is we do have people that are around, though. Wherever I'm not great at something, I'll either source it out, third party, I'll ask for advice on it. I'll have one of my partners kind of work on it. We have a few small partners that are a part of it spread around the country. But for the most part, if I don't recognize my weaknesses, and then really it's something bad for the whole company. So it's really a lot of reflection on my part. I know for a fact that when we get over a certain amount of, that we'll need a CFO, because I'm not a CFO, and I know that we're going to need a marketing company, which I've already got, but that because I'm not a marketer. I'm a sales guy, and I'm passionate, and I love to develop products. And I've got some people in my organization that love to sell products. I love to create them. And I see a lot of need out there for a lot of products, for a lot of products that you can tie around the basis for humans. And that's kind of what we plan to do. But I'm doing it based on the strength of what all of our team does better. I'll tell you another thing that kind of hit me. If you don't have that last piece, you really do play to everybody's strengths. But there's been situations where none of us have that strength. And, we just don't. I've had to look everybody in the eye and say, we've got to look outside to get this. But we're all good. We all understand it. We're all older guys. I mean, we're not young to think we can, do everything on our own anymore. I think that's the part of wisdom anyway.
I think that's a strength as well. And it's such a great question, Matt, because, we're all really attuned to what we do well. And it's an extension of the vision, right? To know what we don't do well, and to have some humility with that, and to be able to delegate that, or bring somebody in from the outside, knowing that it's just going to drain your energy if you try to do it, right? So you want to stick in those areas that you do well. So gentlemen, if we could put a bow on this, I would love to go around and just share something, maybe like a 1-minute takeaway here of Sean's story. I mean, I love the vision part of it, because kind of what I just said, the extension of that, it's not just the vision of moving forward, it's the vision of, like, how many new perspectives are there, Sean, when you're at that level of running a company? You got to worry about so many more things than just being an employee at Harris Teeter, right? And there's such another level of responsibility. So I love the word awareness. It's, one of the huge things that we promote at Pro Advisor Coach. But think about that. You have to be continually aware every single day of what's going on, what you do well, what you don't do well. Know your employees. There's such a responsibility on that, and just that constant check-in. And I love what you said about, like, I talk to myself. Some people might think that sounds crazy, but it's necessary. You have to do that. So that's my takeaway. I really appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. And the energy piece that you brought up earlier, I've really learned that sometimes, I could waste a lot of bad energy, going after something. So energy is a big deal to me, and momentum is a big deal to me. So I walk away from things when they don't have those two things going.
Team, I would share that, first of all, I'm just incredibly grateful to meet Sean today. I'm impressed and amazed, not only in his background and all of his sports fandom, but his story is inspirational. And it just shows you that people are amazing, and just the resilience of the human spirit is amazing to me. That Sean has been an employee for 29 years, and he kept reflecting, kept working on himself, kept feeding his mind constantly with, the podcast and the learning. And through all of this, he was able to come to the realization that I am not living congruently to myself, and I've got to go find that mission, that purpose. I've got to go make that happen. And he found a way to go and do it. And anyone can do that. And it's just great to hear Sean talk about it and kind of inspire others to do that. That's my takeaway from today, is that people are amazing. Sean, you're amazing. Hearing your story is inspirational. So I want to give that to you, brother, that, it's been really inspiring hearing the story, and we can do it. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you both for the time. It's been incredible.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, thank you very much for joining Truth Seekers. Coach Matt, thank you for filling in. Appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
Hey, EcoTwistClean.com. Don't forget, products better than iron, actually. Have a great day.
Thank you.